My name is Erik LaRock, and I am a 4th grade teacher at Neveln Elementary School. Today we're reading a story called How to Be Nice, and the main standard / reading skill we're working on is main idea and summarizing. It is a very important standard in 4th grade, and it's really important that these kids learn this skill. The first thing I had talked about at the beginning of the lesson was the standards and the content and language objectives. And one thing you always want to do is match them up. You want to find a 4th grade standard and write your objectives based on that. And it kind of helps you ask yourself, what are the kids learning in this lesson? The reason why they're so important to put on the board is you can refer back to it during the lesson. And it always kind of helps you as a teacher stay focused on what are you really trying to have the kids learn. You guys, this week we are going to practice the reading skill summarizing and main idea. Today we're going to do summarizing, okay? So your objectives today are written up here and right here. So we are going to summarize fiction text by identifying important details, all right? Who and what, which we have done before this year, right? And our language objectives, okay, how you're going to do it, you're going to turn and talk to your partner to discuss summarizing using the 10-finger. Remember the paragraph shrinking method that we've done? Yeah. Okay. And I added another one right here. We're also going to create a flow map, all right, with your partner. And I'll let you guys go off and do that at the end here. When teaching a reading math lesson or any lesson, it is very important to go over your key vocabulary before the lesson actually starts. And what this does is it gets students that may have a hard time understanding a word as you're reading, get it using a picture, or just saying the word in general. It is very important that you go over it before the story, so as the story is getting read, they understand what the word is, or they can make an aha moment saying, hey, I heard that word earlier. So it's really important to go over the key vocabulary. We're going to go over our vocabulary. So some key vocabulary that you guys are going to maybe have some questions on as we're reading. Okay, the word perplexed. Can you guys say perplexed?
Perplexed.
Okay, perplexed means very puzzled or very confused. Now look at that picture. Can you guys give me a perplexed look? Yeah, questioning. Right here, some of you may know this word, but some of you may not. The word stepfamily. Raise your hand if you know what the word stepfamily means. Okay? If you don't, all right, it's family through law, so you're not genetically related. One thing that I always like to do is try to get a strategy maybe you've done in the past, or maybe a new strategy, to get kids to kind of link it to what you're trying to teach them. And in this lesson, I use the 10-finger summarizing, which we've used in the past, which really helps kids remember that their summaries have to be short, and they have to include important like the who and the what, like I was saying. So especially elementary students, they really like to have summaries that are very long, and the 10-finger summary really helps them. The strategy really helps them make clear and concise, like short summaries. 10-finger summarizing, just to review, okay? You guys have 10 fingers? There we go. All right. Remember, when you're doing the 10-finger summarizing, you're naming the most important thing in the story, or in the passage, or in the text, whatever we're reading. So it's who and what in fiction, all right? Who is the characters? What are they doing, okay? Or you're telling the most important thing about the who or what they did. Like in nonfiction, you'll be saying the main idea in 10 words or less, okay? Because there's not always a who. All right, so remember that. One thing I like to do when I'm teaching reading is do the gradual release model and the I do, we do, you do type of strategy. And since we were working on the 10-finger summarizing strategy, it's really good to model it first. Effective teachers, just don't let the kids go do it right away. You really need to model it to, number one, show your expectations. And number two, modeling for students is just to show that the process they need to be thinking while they're reading. So in this first segment, I did it, and after the first couple pages, I summarized what I expected them to do. I'm glad you like her, Pops mumbled. He was grading history paper. He teaches summer. And it's going to keep going on. So let's stop here. Okay, it's good to check for your understanding. So I'm going to summarize what I read after just the first 2 pages.
Okay.
All right? There's a lot of details in here, but you got to remember who and what. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. Get your fingers ready. Count for me. Will you count for me?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to summarize it for you. Rosie has a new stepfamily, and she doesn't like her stepsister.
12.
All right? You remember that? Rosie has a new stepfamily, and she doesn't like her new stepsister. So, over here on the flow map, I'm going to write that. Rosie has a new stepfamily, and she doesn't like her stepsister. Or you could write Kyla there. It doesn't really matter. That's the best thing about summarizing, is there's not an exact answer. But notice who I have who.
Rosie.
Those 2 pages were mostly about Rosie telling about her story, right? Now what? She has a new stepfamily, and she doesn't like her stepsister, and I kind of had to make a little inference there though, right? Well, what does she think? Her stepsister is too nice, right?
All right, another important part of a shared reading lesson is bringing up and modeling and reinforcing your word study. So at the beginning of the story, I went over the key vocabulary, and then when we got to actually one of the words, it's a good part to stop and actually reinforce that word and go over it. Maybe act confused yourself, and how do I understand this word as I'm reading? So again, it's modeling again. And as the story goes on, you can release it into the students' hands and have them try to do it as well.
Say you're reading and you don't understand this, you got to sometimes use context clues. So if you didn't know what it means, very puzzled or confused, let's take this word, let's read this paragraph again really quickly, and let's try maybe putting a different word in, or using these words around to see what that word means. All right? So, she sounds thoughtful, Pops answered, sounding perplexed. I don't know what your problem is. So Pops can't figure out Rosie's problem. Huh?
She's confused.
She's confused. Well, can you put confused right there?
Yeah.
And you put puzzled?
Yeah.
Bewildered?
Yeah.
Right? All those words? You can. So that's what context clues is, right? Make sure you guys remember to use those when you get to a word you don't know.
As before, the first time we stopped, I modeled the summarizing in the 10-finger summary. And now the second time, the gradual release model, I let the kids do it, so it's more of a we do. So you have to reinforce the comprehension strategy that you're working on as the lesson goes on. So this is a good time to listen to some students, what they actually think, and really just start to see, are they kind of getting it? So it's a good part to stop during the story and listen to them and see what they have to say.
Remember, you're going to turn and talk to your partner right now, and you guys are going to do a 10-finger summary. All right? Let's go with the person on the right is going to go first, is going to do the summary, the person on the left. And then you're going to switch and try maybe either doing it differently or kind of coming up with the same answer. Remember, there's no really wrong answer unless you use something that's not about the story, okay? So who and what. Now remember, I'm going to help you right here. This is just a little part of it. The biggest thing that you got to think about was who and what on these 2 pages. All right?
Okay.
All right, turn and talk. Go.
In the gradual release model, it is really important to have the students actually do some of the work to see if they're actually learning the comprehension strategy. So before we did the we do and the kids did it, and I could tell they're struggling just a little bit, which is okay, but I really wanted to know, is there any students really, like who is really struggling with it? So in the last segment, I had them do it, and they had to do a 10-figure summary on the back of a sheet. And it really actually, surprisingly, most of the students actually got the concept. And those students who do not get it, that's where I might meet with them in a small group, might meet with them individually, and work on that individual strategy / reading skill to help them out a little more.
Now what was she doing? Was talking
Two
to
pops.
Pops about, this is what I put,
Stepsister.
about Kyla, I'm going to use her name now,
Okay.
Kyla being
Nice.
too nice. You don't have to get in any details. The details should support this. Okay? There's details in there where we could come up with or talk about that right there. They support that. Okay?
Okay.
But this is what it was mostly about. Okay? That's what you guys, I think, you're struggling a little bit this now because you're thinking about too many details that you want to add in there. Keep it short and sweet. Who and what? What were those people doing in there? Okay, so now we got down here talking about Carmen, and that's really why you don't want to do it because Carmen wasn't even really mentioned on this part till the very end. Now we'll see if Carmen's on the next one, okay? But here's the thing, all right? You guys are going to do the last page, okay? So you guys are going to read it with your partner, all right? It's just one page. You got to take this, and then you're gonna do a 10-finger summary. You guys understand?
Okay.
Now I have it for you because you guys have been sitting here for a little bit. So you guys are gonna get up, and you guys are gonna find a spot in the room, and you are going to read it to partner.
Twice.
No, just once,
Okay.
because it is a, remember a longer one, so we don't have to. Okay, and right on the back, you guys are gonna do your 10-finger summarizing. But here's the thing. Do it with your partner first. Do the 10 fingers, all right? And then write it down once you guys agree on it.
All right, one thing that went really well during the lesson is that the gradual release model worked really well. And when the students went off on their own and did their own thinking map for the flow map, they showed a lot of evidence that they learned the comprehension strategy. Even though it seemed like during the middle of it they really struggled at the end, I could tell that they really learned it. The 10-finger summarizing strategy really helped because students were forced to write a summary in only 10 words, and that was really effective. The one thing that I would change is I was actually supposed to hand out the sheet before the lesson, so they were actually supposed to write the flow map as we were going along. So even though I'm modeling, they're still, you're holding them accountable to pay attention and write that flow map as we're going. The 10-finger summarizing fit really well into this lesson because a couple months prior, we worked on it as an intervention with fluency and comprehension to just, work on check for understanding as students are reading. So it was nice to bring it back up again. They remembered it. And then, as the months go on, as the last few months of school go on, we will bring it up again and keep working with it because it's such an effective strategy that, it's very important for students to learn how to summarize and basically when you're reading, just check for their understanding. All right, thanks for watching.